Hi, welcome. Thanks very much for having us. I've got genetic mutation in the K60 gene. What that means for me is, as you can see on there, get big calluses on the soles of my feet. Can you not hear? What that means for me is I get big calluses on the soles of my feet. You might wonder why I was wearing flip-flops today, but that's because it's a little easier when I do that and lean on this stage here. With me I've got Tim, my 17-year-old son, who unfortunately I've got to pass it on to. So the biggest effect is the thick calluses on the soles of my feet, but as you've seen, there can be other effects with this. In layman's terms, I just think of it as thick callus. Underneath that, there's no nice skin. There's just a layer of mush. So, growing up, got to the age of about 1, started to walk, started to get blisters and cracks on the feet. Tried lots of different treatments. One of the favourites of the doctors at the time was the use of orthotics, just to try and make me walk differently, which I look back in hindsight and think, that didn't make a ton of sense to me, but there we go. Saw all sorts of dermatologists, ran rounds at the hospital. But what didn't happen at that time, no one knew what was going on at all, so there was no diagnosis. The closest they got in the end was plantar keratoderma, which I guess you all know means thickened skin, but it doesn't really say what was actually going on there. I was a spontaneous case, so my family, no one else knew what was going on. So these are pictures of when I was young, and because they didn't really understand, it just meant that we'd go walking, and you look back on that, it was absolutely crazy. I wouldn't do that in a million years with Tim. But because they didn't understand it, that was what we did. They didn't appreciate the uncomfortableness and the pain that would cause. But back then, I think it was a little different to now. You just sort of go along with it. Youngsters now have got a bit more input on what they do in their lives. And it was tough not to be able to do normal things. I tried to play football and whatever, and got to the age of 12, and unfortunately had to retire about that point. Would have made it otherwise, I think. Sorry, another one of the things when I was growing up, one of the big things was chiropodists. Used to go to the chiropodist when I was young. They would pare down the skin, because that's what chiropodists do. But what they didn't realise is, as I said before, it's thick skin, and underneath it is the callus, but there's no nice skin underneath. So chiropodists want to just shave it down, cut it all off, then you'll be fine. So they used to try and do that. So for 2 days, literally couldn't walk. Again, you look back and I think, Tim would never have gone with that. But back then, you just went with it and accepted it. When I was quite young still, I was like, this is a good way to proceed. So got my dad's flexible razor blades, double-sided razor blades. Started hacking my own feet, which is better because it meant that I didn't hack them too low. I didn't take too much of the skin off. The only problem with that flexible double-sided razor blades to me weren't best to cut hard skin. So you kept digging in, and it makes me shiver to think of it now. Fortunately now you can buy surgical scalpels on eBay, so it makes it look easier. So I was fine, ticking along on my own, and then we got to, wife and I got to the age of about 30, and we started a family. We had Tim, and then had another on the way, and Tim was already unfortunately showing the same signs at that point. Hard day, but very difficult to sort of get by when it's like that. When you've got a young family, you can tick along on your own, okay, but then with a young family, it's a little bit different. You can't select when when you're on your feet and not so much. After a hard day of that, I was doing a bit of internet searching, again, as Dave said earlier, and I found there was a publication by a researcher based in Scotland, and although I didn't recognise any of the words, I found that some of the pictures looked sort of similar, so I contacted her, and then she put me in touch with the PC project, and for the first time I was like, okay, maybe there is something going on here. So this next slide now is the first PC project meeting that we ever went to, but it was, what they did was they sent me genetic tests straight away, and I'm like, okay, weird, amazing, right, okay, take the genetic test, send it back, and suddenly I've got a diagnosis. And then, so for the first 33 years of my life, no clue what was going on, suddenly I've got this diagnosis. It's a huge relief, because you don't know, it's getting progressively worse over time, it hurts all the time, and then suddenly to find that there was this charity out there that was doing things, there was a researcher that had written an academic paper on it, was absolutely incredible. Then I joined the International Research, PC Research Registry, as Dave was talking about. Again, that was a big deal, because suddenly there's a few other people on there who've got the same condition, going through the same thing, got a bit of shared knowledge. So yeah, very big deal. That led to, these pictures, PC project support meetings that we went to, fundraising things that we did, and then eventually it's led to a couple of clinical trials, one of which I'm in at the moment with Adele's running, who will be talking in a minute. And it's, it was incredible to find that there's people who are working for a cure in this space. Currently, diagnosis, meeting other people with the same condition, it does make it a lot more manageable, but fundamentally it's not that much fun, and it sort of is progressively getting worse. I can stand here to a point, but it's not a lot of fun. Got active boys. My youngest one, there's a picture up here. I just chucked the ball for him in the garden. It's a shame that I can't really kick the ball around. Can't do that sort of thing. When I'm standing there in the picture, you can sort of tell it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It's stressful too. It's always on your mind that you've got a certain number of steps in a day, so you have to manage those pretty carefully. So I think the stressful part of it is the part that you sort of wouldn't necessarily realise, because you think, you go upstairs to fetch something, and then you get frustrated if you're not remembering something else. So that's one of the things that's quite annoying. And I think that results in migraines for me, which is not so much fun. So yeah, overall, pretty normal person for the most part, but got this weird, painful condition on my feet. And that pass over to Tim, who will, unfortunately I passed his condition over to Tim, so he's going to chat about his life with it a little bit.
So I'm Tim from Wales, and I'm 17, and I've got exactly the same as my dad. So I get the calluses on my feet, and I'm getting it a lot more on my hands now as well. I get splits in between where my little toe joins the foot, and then I also get these little splits and cracks on my heels as well. So growing up, I used to get my feet cut every 3 weeks by the chiropodist, but and I was also allowed to wear Crocs in school, and then later on I was allowed to wear flip-flops. But obviously this isn't ideal for being young in school. So I used to love football, but I had to stop that when I was about 12, and I also had to stop karate as well, which I enjoyed both of those. Nowadays I have found sports that I can enjoy, like water polo and biking, but I still love to play football and karate and do stuff like that. So when we were young as well, my family used to do a lot of fundraising, but then it would result in headlines like that saying that we couldn't wear shoes, which is not true. So that's a bit uncomfortable, especially everyone seeing that, and it's all a bit weird then. So in secondary school it got a lot harder as well, because all the lessons were spaced out, so it was a lot more walking. And then during COVID it got even worse, because they made a new one-way system around the school, and there was just so much on my feet that I had to move to a much smaller school. So that was difficult. Living with it now, I can't always go out with my friends, and whenever I do I have to plan it, and I always have to bring a bike usually. I find I can't really go anywhere without a bike, because I just end up doing a lot of walking, and that's painful. I work part-time as a lifeguard, but in the pool it's really hot, and that generally makes my feet worse. So after a shift lifeguarding, I'm even more limited what I can do the rest of the day, and then I can sit around, and it's not enjoyable when my friends are all out doing stuff that I want to be doing. So nowadays my dad cuts my feet about every 3 weeks, and it takes about 2 hours each time. I'm trying to learn, but it's difficult because he has to scalpel through the dead skin, and I haven't got the hang of it yet, so there's a risk of cutting myself. But it's not easy, and that'll be even harder when I go to university. So yeah, like I said, we have to plan everything, and it is just always bringing a bike everywhere with me. And for next year, I'm planning on going to university, and that's again going to be really difficult. The university that I go to is going to be decided based on my feet, or that's going to be a big part of the decision. We need to be somewhere small with a lot less walking. And finally, we've recently applied for personal independence payment in the UK, which is to help with living and daily activities. So for example, if I'm stuck out somewhere, I can easily just call a taxi if I needed, or order a dinner if I'm unable to make something myself in the evening. But unfortunately that was unsuccessful, so we've had to appeal, but the questions don't really cater towards BC, because I can still walk, but I'm always with pain, and they don't really seem to understand that, so that's always been difficult. So yeah, thank you for listening.